Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Mehta, CEO of Gainsight, and I'm excited to welcome you back to a series we've been hosting at Gainsight over the last year called Net Retention TV. Definitely the nerdiest TV show on the internet, but all about something many people in customer success are really passionate about, which is how do we drive net retention for our business. But today we want to maybe take a little bit of a segue and talk about how we drive net retention on our teams. And what I mean by that is some of you have probably heard about the Great Resignation. Definitely the toughest and most competitive labor market in the history of technology, potentially history of the world in general. And nowhere is that more pronounced than in the field of customer success. Customer success has been one of the fastest growing jobs in the world over the last decade. And because of that, every employer is scrambling to find CSMs, to grow them, and also to keep them on their team. So we want to have a really candid discussion with a CS team that I really respect at UiPath about what it's like today to recruit and retain CSMs. So I want to have you join me in welcoming to the virtual stage two executives I've known for a long time: Thomas Hansen, Chief Revenue Officer at UiPath, and Justin Greenberger, Vice President of America's Go-to-Market at UiPath. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Awesome. Well, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to talk to you both. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to dive into just the whole process of like building a team in 2022 and hiring CSMs and all that. But first, as we always do at Gainsight, I want to get to know you both as human beings. So everyone's always looking for recommendations on new TV shows or books or movies to watch. So what are you both consuming or binging right now? So let me go to Justin first.
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks to the Gainsight team for having us. Super excited to talk about the topics. What I'm binging right now is the Tom Brady ESPN Plus documentaries. I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I really enjoy kind of the behind the scenes of what's going on. And, you got to respect the greatest of all time for.
Yeah, it's funny, Justin. Yeah, I think it's called Man in the Arena, right? Yeah, and it's kind of sacrilegious as a Steeler fan, as you can see back there. I actually want to watch that too. That's which I feel bad about, but I do want to watch it. How about you, Thomas? What are you watching these days?
Hey, Nick, I'm watching all of it. I think I've consumed all of it that's available out there, right? Although I'm American, I'm born and raised in Denmark. I used to be Danish, so to speak. I still watch some Danish TV, and I'm watching an amazing Danish TV show called The Castle, Borgen in Danish. It's an amazing 10 season show about politics. Fantastic show.
Interesting. That's great. It's great to get a little perspective from around the world. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, great. And mine, by the way, is I just finished Cobra Kai season 4, which is the Karate Kid remake.
Of course you did.
It shows you Karate Kid never gets old. So, okay, so let's talk about kind of the whole process and market today for hiring. But let's give people context on who UiPath is first. So for folks that don't know UiPath and haven't seen your amazing TV commercials, which by the way are now playing during NFL football, so I've seen the commercials; they're super cool. Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about what UiPath does?
Yeah, you bet. So look, what we as a company do is we are set out to fundamentally reshape how people work, and we do that using automation. So what our technology really does is allows people to get freed up to do things they enjoy, as opposed to the boring, mundane stuff. The technology helps companies tackle big, complicated problems like claim processing, as an example. Now, all of this requires a centralized approach to customers, of course, focusing on the customer success and touching the most important part of the company, people and process. So that's what we do. We help companies automate a ton of processes and tasks that humans shouldn't be doing. Humans should be spending time on fun stuff, creative stuff, innovative stuff.
I love that. And Thomas, you and I have known each other for quite a while. You've had a long history in SaaS, Dropbox, and Carbon Black, and now UiPath. What's the journey been like for UiPath getting to customer success and making it a big part of the revenue engine?
So I am Nick. I joined UiPath around about 2 years ago, just at the start of the pandemic. My timing was impeccable, right? And customer success was already a pretty well-established discipline at UiPath. As a matter of fact, it's quite unusual. Our current CFO was actually our first chief customer officer.
That's right.
He was actually a customer of UiPath when he was at GE. It's quite a neat story. So when I got here, there was already a very good discipline around customer success within the company. Look, we started out by helping customers scale from a technical perspective with more automations. And over time, we built teams that help relieve the CSMs, the customer success managers, time so they can spend more time with customers on harder problems. And around all of that, we built a TAM organization that actually drew from the CSM team as well. So it's a fairly advanced model. It follows, Nick, you're going to laugh now, the classic high touch, low touch, tech touch model. I think you know that one.
A little bit.
And in the model, what is a little bit unusual to some other companies is we, of course, rely heavily on our own technology to automate as much as we can, as much as you've done actually within Gainsight. So we have a ton of work that is run by bots, really making sure that our team, our CSMs, our TAMs can focus on the customers.
I love that. And that's a good segue. So Justin, you've been running America CS, and before that kind of driving some global initiatives as well. Talk about what the charter of CS is today at UiPath, and also what the role of the CSM is, because that'll pivot well into our recruiting discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I love customer success because I think it's a little bit different in every company. It's kind of what your company needs at the moment it needs it. And so for customer success at UiPath, it's really first and foremost about the customer and identifying their true needs. We focus on a couple of three things: adoption, usage, and value realization. We're a little bit different than normal software companies, I'd say, and I say that from my old CIO background, is it doesn't take that long to get value from UiPath. Our time to value is extremely quick. And so it's really about finding what is most important to that customer and driving that as quickly as possible. We have over 10,000 customers now, so doing it at various segments and different touches and all of that. And we do that all through success planning, value metrics, customer value reviews, really making sure we're on the same page with our customer over time. Making sure we're sticking to their true north. We always like to talk about making heroes out of our customers. I think it's exactly what we try to do, internally for them to really broaden their automation reach, as well as, looking at them across their community of practice and automation. One of our best examples is Chipotle. I mean, if you take a look at Chipotle, they're transforming the entire industry as it looks at, automation, intelligent automation, et cetera. And our CSMs really help them identify what's our success plan look like, and then what automations are going to get us to that value. So all in all, it's about the customer and obviously time to value to make sure they're getting the most out of what we're working with them on.
See, I'm going to double click on that one, Justin. So as you think about your pitch to a CSM for why they should work at UiPath, do you talk a little bit about then the outcomes that UiPath is driving, how it's such fast time to value, such clear impact to companies like Chipotle? Is that part of the pitch?
Absolutely, and it's also about making sure they're ready for it. It's an extremely fast curve to get to work with a customer, as well as experiencing all the time to value they get quickly. But then in addition, as we go through the evaluation process for candidates, we're looking for intensely focused customer-facing individuals who are really doubling down on what does the customer want, what does the customer need. So we're doing all of that evaluation as we get through, talent reviews, as well as talking to new candidates. But it's definitely top priority for us as someone who can go through that fast growth curve. Any
trick? Because most companies would say, obviously, we want our team to be customer focused. It's sort of become a cliche. I know you actually are. Any trick on assessing that, for in the hiring process?
Yeah, creativity is actually a great place to look. Assessing a candidate for creativity and how they would look at a customer and what they would do with that customer. So we actually go through situational planning of your customer just experienced a go live. What are you doing with them to make them feel special, as well as focusing on how they position it within their company. So I think creativity is a huge trait we look for when we think about customer focus, and also, how to make heroes out of their customer.
I love that. I think that's such a good point, because every customer is different, and your technology is also kind of a platform. So the use cases could be pretty different for Chipotle versus a bank versus somewhere else. So they need to be able to evolve. And I think that's a good segue. So Thomas, back to you, because UiPath does a great job of integrating the whole revenue lifecycle together: sales, customer success, et cetera. So what's the relationship between sales and CS at UiPath, and what do you look for from CSMs joining your team in terms of how they work with the rest of your team?
Yeah, so look, CS is very much part of the fabric of UiPath, and hence our sellers naturally gravitate to the CSMs, mostly because they know the CSMs are super knowledgeable about not just the customers, but also the product and the organization. So what we've done, Nick, is over time we have refined the responsibility and the role of the CSMs to focus solely on the success of customer. And you know, I mean, if you ask 10 different people around how they define customer success, the role responsibility, you will get 11 different answers, right?
Totally.
Anyway, so look, we started to have CSMs report out on risk for renewals. But what we've done now is actually a year ago, we've started a commercial renewals team that is taking on that. So the CSMs are purely owning the customer health, truly the success of the customer, whereas the renewals team owns the transaction and the sales team owns the growth. So what it means is, Nick, you get a CSM, they focus on escalating customer issues, focus on the partnerships, and really just advocating for the customers internally. So I think that's a good model to have. It depends, of course, at the stage and scale you're at, but at the size and scale and stage we are fortunate to be at UiPath, this is today the model that works really well for us.
And what do you look for then in that CSM, maybe in addition to the creativity Justin talked about, to be able to work well with their counterparts in sales and renewals and other areas? What are you looking for in that interview process?
Oh, so we test for a number of things. So one of the big issues here, given that this is a team effort, you've got to look at the ability to collaborate in a national fashion. Then, because we're going through hyper growth, we always look at not just the individual's ability to do the job at hand, but also can she or he 18, 24, 30 months down the line take on a larger responsibility. It may be larger customers, more complex customers. It may be a different geography, may be maturing into a role as a people manager. So we also look at, does that person have the trajectory to grow into different parts of the company to help us support the growth we're going through? Then we have a quite unique set of values in UiPath that are not just something we put on t-shirts or print on office walls. Not that any of us go to the office, right? But our values are so true to the core, to the heart of the company. So we always test for alignment to the values. And by the way, our four values are bold, humble, fast, and immersed. So we test out for that, where various interviewers take on the role to look for that. So yeah, those are just some of the components we look at that matters to us.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, everything you said, I think resonates, particularly in your type of a solution where it's not like a CSM working on their own as a silo. They've got to collaborate. So collaboration is so important. The ability to scale, obviously values being core to your company. And I think one other thing I picked up, which to me is an important recruiting message, is, you know, you're not spreading your CSM so thin that they have to do the value and outcomes and the adoption and the renewal and the sales. You're like, no, we're going to specialize, which lets CSMs be set up for success. Justin, I see you're nodding your head. Is you feel that way too?
Yeah, I think what happens is the customer success manager, and I explain this to candidates too, they do so much at the beginning of a company. They do everything. And then as you build out services organizations, support organizations, better commercial alignment, et cetera, the CSM starts to purify the responsibility to exactly what Thomas said, which is really focusing on the customer. That's what we want them to do. And I think UiPath's done a really good job of investing in the areas around CSMs so they can really focus on the customer and really make sure that the value is there.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, totally. In early stage companies, the CSM job description is basically et cetera. It's everything else that was done by another group, right? So over time, et cetera doesn't scale. So let's kind of segue then to the recruiting strategy. So Justin, I'm going to come to you on this one of, you know, you're sitting there, you got, I'm sure, big targets on hiring people, and it's a crazy market. Like, what have you been doing to recruit CSMs? Where do you find them? Anything creative? And you may be thinking, Nick, I don't want to tell anyone because you're sharing your secrets and you want to keep those, but whatever you can share with the audience.
Yeah, no, I think customer success is a really unique domain. I didn't come from customer success. I came from CIO and IT world. And I think we find CSMs from all walks of life. You know, we have helicopter and airplane pilots. We have former musicians. We have lawyers. We have athletes. You know, you have kind of people from all these backgrounds, which makes a really unique culture and environment. But I think what we've tried to do is really curate a career path within UiPath, which allows people to grow into bigger opportunities, bigger situations that they can really, hold themselves accountable and grow in their own skill sets. And so we've created a new associate CSM program that really funnels, if you think about our CS network, which is really an opportunity for an associate CSM to see a wide array of customers from different domains and backgrounds. And then we're allowing those associate CSMs with the right coaches, with the right mentors, to really grow up in the enterprise and the strategic accounts and all the other places. So I think we've really doubled down on curating a career path within UiPath from a customer success standpoint. And that's been a really good focus of how do we grow people into these positions as well.
That's a great point. And that's something we see a lot in the industry is you can't say our only strategy is hiring experienced CSM because everyone else has the same strategy and then you're just in a zero-sum game. So you're trying to grow people from within, bringing them in from other walks of life into this associate role and then letting them grow into a CSM role. Is that what did I capture it right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're doing it, you're investing in your onboarding content as much as possible because you want to make sure people get up to speed as quickly as we can. So we have a really focused program and a really focused onboarding structure so that people can get up to speed quickly. But yeah, that's essentially it. You can't go externally for everything. You've got to start growing your talent internally as well.
And those associates, it sounds like you're probably not just interviewing them on experience then, because some of them are coming from different walks of life. Is it more intrinsic motivation, intangibles, things like that?
I think what we're finding is people come from sectors and want to join customer success. So if you think about something like life sciences, we just onboarded someone who came from life sciences legal department of that life sciences company. They came from a background where they saw automation was a problem. They saw technology was bringing them down. And they saw the opportunity in a sector that maybe had been slow to transform. And so we're getting a really nice kind of like merging of sectors into customer success, which has been really good for us from a knowledge-based standpoint.
On that though,
go ahead, Tom.
Nick. One of the things also given the size and stage we add is we are more and more taking an approach of running our business with verticals and align into industries. So part of that is, of course, making sure when we look at critical hires is making sure exactly to Justin's point. As we, for example, right now setting up our vertical for life sciences and healthcare, we want to bring people in that actually has that domain expertise that can speak the language of the customer and drive much deeper relevance. So does it matter if those folks that we're talking to join a potential role as a CSM, if they are deep in tech and deep in automation? Not necessarily. That can be taught, but domain expertise and the right interpersonal traits we've been discussing, now that you can't train, that you got to go and interview for.
I love that. Yeah, that's a big trend I'm seeing is, as people verticalize their go-to-market more, hiring people from the domain. And I can imagine for these people coming from the domain, they're probably very excited to work in a very modern software company, right? It's a cool opportunity for them as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to Thomas's point, they see what's broken in companies. They see what's causing them pain. Yeah, exactly. And they want to go fix it.
I love that. So Thomas, let me go back to you. So, you have we talked already about, you've got sales and CS and the full kind of customer journey underneath you. Yeah. How do you think about incentive compensation for CSMs? What do you compensate your CSMs on versus what you compensate your sellers and your renewal reps on?
Yeah, it comes back to the discussion from early on around the evolving role of CSM and UiPath.
Yeah.
And listen, I mean, so it all depends on what stage you're at. You got to align your compensation. So we're very fortunate right now. We have our sellers focused on selling. We have our renewals team focused on renewing, and our customer success team, they have a core role. And of course, it's aligned to the strategy and the goal of the company. And it is to drive adoption and customer satisfaction. That's it. And by the way, not if, but when they do a great job of that for every customer, then you get to world-class net retention rate. And we're very fortunate that when we look at our net retention rate, we are one of the best in class amongst hyper-growth enterprise software companies. I believe there's only one or two that's higher than us. So it's a pretty good place to be. But it's all about, you got to make sure you center to the customer. You got to drive satisfaction. You got to ensure the customers see value through adoption and utilization. So that's the focus, and that's how we pay.
I love that. It's very, very clear. Now, people are obviously working not just for the pay, but for the opportunity to advance as well. And Justin, I'm sure you've had a million career conversations with your team about what's next in their career? Where are they going? And totally understandable. When we were in that position, we all had the same things early in our career as well. So how do you talk, Justin, to your team about career path, going to manager, going into different roles? Like what do you talk about as career path?
Yeah, I think we've worked really hard to create a career path within customer success. If you look at over the course of the last year, we had about 15 promotions just, in the Americas in this year. And so oftentimes, through director level positions, new teams that form, new leadership opportunities. And we've also started to scale out a principal program. I think, you start to look at those levels and you kind of grow into them as your company starts to grow as well. And so principal CSM has been a big focus for us. I think what's interesting about a company that grows like us, to Thomas's point about creating verticals, it creates a new dimension of career pathing. A CSM who never thought about maybe looking at a vertical before, they now can start to. When you create segmentation, you also create a new dimension of, hey, maybe I want to take on a bigger account or something like that. So I think adding all these dimensions has really been good for UiPath and CSMs. I think the other thing is we also cultivate, looking at other teams as opportunities and areas where you can expand. Well, I don't love losing team members. I know from a career path standpoint, it's important. So we've had people go into partner leadership positions, product managers, and emerging product teams. And it's all about, curating what they are expecting out of their career as well as coaching them to get to the next level.
I love that. We've had in Gainsight, our CSMs go into almost every role in the company. And short term, it's painful for Kelly Capote, our CCO, because you have to backfill, but it makes the whole company a lot more customer centric. I'm sure you feel that same way, Justin. So
absolutely. Yeah. Great point of view to go into any part of our organization for sure.
So Thomas, this is your chance to shamelessly pitch the culture of UiPath. So how do you, when you talk to candidates, what do you talk about vis-a-vis the culture and what's unique about the company and kind of the CS team?
Nick, what I pivot on is the 4 values I mentioned earlier on: bold, humble, immersed, and fast. But there's one word that kind of encapsulates the whole thing, which is not necessarily something you would associate with a big global enterprise software company, and it's the notion of kindness or being kind. We come from very humble beginnings in Europe, in Romania. And that early humble beginning has put us in a place where we remember, we appreciate, we treat those around us with kindness, with respect, and we make sure that everybody that is in the organization have a good shot at having a great career, one they feel respected, where there is opportunity to have some work-life harmony or work-life balance, depending on how you think about it. So yeah, the one word for me we talk a lot about is kindness. The other word I would say, though, which is a little bit down the notion of how do you deal with the great resignation, is the notion of opportunity. Mm-hmm. We're very fortunate that our customers are voting with their wallet, so to speak, and continue to do more and more business with us. And as we continue to grow the company, we're also growing the number of great colleagues, people we have in the company. And as Justin said, that means that there's a lot of opportunity. You join today doing role XYZ, and 18, 24, 30 months down the line, you may probably be doing something else. It may be the same title, but just very different scale and scope of responsibility, maybe a different title, different role in a different geography. So those are just some of the things we talk about when we talk about the company, besides just focusing on the classic values and culture.
I love that, Thomas. It's very thoughtful, and just your Daniel, your founder's story is so inspirational. It's really resonates. Yeah. Kindness and opportunity. Justin, anything you'd add into the culture of the CSM team? Anything in addition to those 2 that Thomas mentioned?
I think Thomas mentioned a little bit about this, but innovation is core to what we do in customer success. You kind of constantly have to reinvent yourself every year based on your customer base and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so, as Thomas mentioned, we view innovation and creating robots for ourselves as a part of kind of core culture for the CSM community. We have people who have created automations to flag risk on, customers that might have issues or anything else. And, I think innovation and creativity is a part of a growing culture in a company, is to make sure you're contributing to that side of it as well as your core responsibility. So that's another thing I'd say we really try to harness as a part of our culture.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that working with you all. That definitely very innovative culture, which is super cool. So, all right, let me close out with the word association. I'm going to alternate these between each of you. So I'll say a word, just to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. So Justin, I'll go to you first. Automation. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I have to say UiPath, but I would also say freedom. I really do believe that as you look at automation, it gives people a chance to do things that they want to focus on versus the things that they're forced to focus on.
That's cool. Thomas, what does automation bring to mind for you?
2 words. One is heartbeat, but the other one, of course, is Gainsight.
Oh, you're so kind. Look at that. Please with the host. Free drinks for all of you. Okay, Thomas, customer success. When you hear that term, what comes to mind as a CRO?
Longevity of the company. This is, as I said, is the heartbeat of the company. It really is. So to me, it has to be the core focus area. For us, it's an area we continue to invest in. So my one word on customer success is invest.
Invest. I love that. That's awesome. That's great. Justin, customer success. Yeah. Are you a fan of customer success?
Yeah, I don't know how to follow up when your CRO says invest. So
that's pretty good.
I'll be sure I'll be sending him an email after this. But
your budget request just got approved.
Yeah. But for customer success, I think it goes similar to what Thomas said. I think of roots. I think UiPath grew up with roots founded in customer success and our customers believing in what we do, and we believe in them. And I do really believe foundational and roots are something I think about customer success.
Love it. And then Justin, close out with both you guys. So a great resignation. Justin, what comes to mind when you hear that one?
I think attention. I think everyone needs to be focused on it and understand what it means to them, and really being able to understand what does your team need out of you, and what can you deliver to your team? Because I think this is probably the most accountable leaders have been to their teams in a very long time. And I think it's important that everyone pays attention to it.
That's such a good point. Thomas, great resignation. What comes to mind for you?
To me, embrace your team, be close to your team, spend time with the team, embrace the team, make sure they have a great experience. No one will leave because they get 10% more dollars. People will stay if they love what they do, if they have a great camaraderie, great colleagues, great product, great customers. So embrace your team.
Oh my God, what a great way to close out. Awesome hearing from both of you. Such a quick but deep conversation. I'm sure UiPath is going to get a couple more people on your careers website today. So that's probably not the worst thing in the world. And for all of you, I hope you took away some lessons about how you can build and retain your own team. So Justin, thank you. Thomas, thank you. And look forward to seeing you both soon.
Thanks.
All right, thanks everyone. See y'all soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.